People very often ask, how can the biblical account of creation be compatible with evolutionary biology? And very often people understand that to mean, how can it be compatible with Genesis chapter 1? I think the first thing I want to say is, look, first of all, there's Genesis 1, but there's also Genesis chapter 2, which actually gives you a subtly different, complementary account of creation. And then there's the whole of the Old Testament to look at, where we have a rich vision of creation, which complements and expands what we find in Genesis. And of course, the New Testament adds further layers onto this. So we need to make it absolutely clear. Genesis 1 is only part of a rich understanding of creation. But secondly, here's a very important point. Genesis 1 talks about the earth bringing forth. Now, what does that mean? It does not mean God makes immediately. It means that in some way God is causing the earth to bring forth. What's that all about? Now, the author of Genesis was not a scientist, not interested in scientific questions. He wants to talk about God as the ultimate origin of all things and help us to realize that nothing in this world is divine and therefore is either to be worshipped on the one hand or to be feared on the other. But even so, in that little phrase, there's the genesis, if I can put it like that, of a very interesting idea that God creates a world within which things happen. Things emerge. Now, that's not a theology of evolution, but it's the framework within which one could be constructed. The reason I hold the position I do is, first of all, because it seems to me to fit in with what the Bible actually says. Secondly, it fits in very well with what early Christian writers said about how they interpreted the Bible, and they stand much closer to the text than we do. For example, Augustine writing about the year 400, in other words, 1600 years ago, just saying, look, I read Genesis, it's obvious what it's saying. There's an initial moment of creation, and then there's a period of growth, development, as God achieves what he wants to be there through a process of development. It doesn't use the word evolution, but it's a developing creation. Creation is about an event and a process. And thirdly, you have to look at the science. Science in one sense is neutral. It's not anti-Christian. What I want to say to you is, look, I've found a position which I think holds all of these things together. Faithful to Scripture, faithful to the Christian tradition, faithful to science. So what do I think is the really important message of Genesis, say Genesis 1 to 3? There are so many things there. There are some things that are not important at all. We may fuss about them. Chronology, who cares? The point that Genesis wants to make is this. This world is God's creation. It owes its existence to God, and in some way the goodness and wisdom of God is expressed in the created order. Then secondly, we are part of that created order. But we are not identical with, we're made with God's image. That means there's something about us which means that we are able to discern God, but above all, we are accountable for the use we make of the creation. To in effect say we bear God's image is not about privilege, it's about accountability and responsibility. And then thirdly, of course, Genesis 3 tells us we're messed up. In effect, there's something about us that means we are intrinsically inclined to do wrong, to seek the lesser good. And it means we need God's grace if we're going to become the people we're meant to be, and also look after this world as we're meant to.